Mayor Carr here in Rutherford County had to make a very difficult decision of asking for a property tax increase, property tax rate increase. And that's difficult when you ask your citizens, you know, can you fund this or that with the tools you have? We have no state income tax. It's unconstitutional in Tennessee. What are some of the things that the conversations you've been having about how do you fund that police officer and the car, for example, if you don't have enough revenue? We're about to be in a budget cycle where the governor has asked for a reduction in many ways. So how does that affect, and what do you do as city mayors? Mayor Brown, if you want to.
Well, just this week, the city of Gallatin, a request to amend our private act to have the ability to put impact fees in place was brought to committee and it was denied. I think that there's some disconnect in some cities being able to have impact fees and other cities not being able to have impact fees. We also have counties asking for impact fees. And if we do go that direction, then we have to figure out, you know, let's set guardrails because we don't want to make housing more unaffordable and we don't want to, you know, take away all the attainability of it or have legislative bodies trying to use it because they don't like growth. That would not be a healthy place to be in. But we've also, one thing I wanted to say about our revenue stream on our property tax, the city of Gallatin has adopted a neutral tax rate for 18 years. So we've not increased our property tax. I think at one point we were like $1.36 and now we're down to 80 cents. But that time is not going to exist forever. It's because we've had so much growth and investment and increase in sales tax that we had not had previously. Simultaneously, the city of Hendersonville just had a referendum on increasing their sales tax, and I was surprised, but it passed very with a very I don't remember the percentage. I want to say maybe almost 70% in favor of raising the sales tax because they put out a very informative campaign, if you will, to the population that, you know, you will pay this much more in average sales tax versus this much more in a property tax because, of course, that sales tax is spread across not just people who live in that city. So we're all challenged with where that revenue is going to come from. And like I said, Gallatin's in a sweet spot now because we have so much commercial coming in. But we need a lot.
You know, it reminds me a few years ago when Williamson County had proposed a sales tax increase for schools. And on the one hand, it did pass, but it also was politically costly for some people. How do you keep up the courage to be able to have these conversations on how you fund the public goods?
Well, I think first of all, have to look to see where our revenue stream is. In our community, sales tax is number one, state shared revenue is number two, property tax is number three. If it wasn't for impact fees, we would have to raise our property taxes for infrastructure and things that we do. I'm a guy that's been mayor for 13 years, I think it is, and prior to me serving, our city bragged about not raising taxes for 25, 26 years. But for a growing community that's been growing at 2,000 people a year for at least 20 years, that's not really feasible because you have to continue to hire police and police cars and firemen and so on and so forth. So one thing that we've done when we have increased property taxes, which has been twice, we've always related that to what the community was going to get. The last time we raised taxes, it was specifically targeted for a number of projects that needed to be done in the community.
Yeah, I'll agree with Mayor Moore and Mayor Brown. The property tax for Clarksville is the number one revenue stream. Followed closely behind that is our sales tax revenue, and then fees and state shared revenues and everything else kind of comes in third. Back in 2020, I proposed to the council a 20-cent tax increase. We were at $1.02. Proposed that we go to $1.22 to pay for a transportation plan that we put forth, about $500 million in those dollar days, and fortunately the council approved it, and we've got road projects going, but we don't have a lot of bullets in our gun to use a phrase probably shouldn't on the campus, but we don't have a lot of ammunition that we can use to raise revenue to pay for growth. Impact fees, we talked about raising the fees that we charge commercial developers. I'm like Mayor Brown. I'm a little reticent to increase fees for residential building permits because that directly impacts the cost of housing, which is already out of reach for a lot of people. So we've got to. It's this delicate dance that we have to do to make sure that we're exhausting all options, and that's why if we could just get the General Assembly to see we have so few options, not take those away.
I want to ask you a related question. I've lived in two markets that were growth markets, the Nashville area and the Fort Myers, Naples area. And in both cases, we had people who said, well, I'm here, nobody else can move here. That's it. The doors are closed. So how do you persuade people who suddenly become anti-growth to understand that there are about 100 people a day moving into the region and you have to do something about it? And I'll open up, why don't we start with Mayor Pitts and then go around?
I don't know that you can persuade them. You just have to show them and let them experience it. I talk about population growth and geographic growth bring opportunities. There are retailers, national retailers, that wouldn't look at Clarksville until we got a certain population, till our median income got up to a certain point or our educational attainment level got up, and now they're beginning to look at us and finally discovering us. People want a certain retail store for groceries or for something else in the community, and finally they're looking at us. So they think that I've gone on a road trip to attract them, but it's the fact that we've grown to the point where we can. It's just difficult. I don't think you convince them. They just have to experience it and show them.
Mayor Moore?
I think we're always going to have naysayers in our community that they move there and they're ready to shut the door, and we see that every single day. I think it's an initiative for our community to make sure that they're educated that growth is healthy and growth in the right way is healthy. But there's always going to be some discontent. There are always going to be people that don't like that the farm or acreage behind them has been developed. That's going to continue to happen.
Mayor Brown?
I think there's forever going to be a disconnect between the general population and elected body because nobody ever wants anything built next to them, right? And then you add to that the challenge of people only wanting things next to them like what they live in. And neighborhoods aren't being built like they were in the 1970s. And we're trying to do or look at a downtown redevelopment plan right now, and you would have thought that we had proposed, I don't know, converting the courthouse to a prison or something. And to me, having residential living adjacent to our historic downtown is a very positive thing. But I'll also throw a theory out there, if this may be for my fellow elected officials. I'm starting to believe that there are different populations in the virtual world versus the physical world. Because if I'm on social media, it's a real different story than what I hear in the community. Because when I'm in the community and I'm in the restaurants and at the ball fields and doing the things, people are really appreciating and enjoying it. But if you go on social media, not so much. And so I have the conversations frequently about it's not the investments that are continuing to be made in our communities for housing are not so much about the people who are moving here. It's about the people who are from here, because it's not just they're taking up the housing inventory. The people who are moving here are. But at the same time, we have people whose kids are growing up and wanting to be independent. We have older residents who are trying to downsize. We have people who are getting divorced. And people just don't seem to, and I don't blame them. I mean, I wouldn't either if I weren't doing what I'm doing. People don't think about, families are different, lifestyles are different, housing options are different, jobs are different. So they're not looking at it as comprehensively as we are, where we can make it make sense. And so I understand where that sentiment comes from, but it is a legitimate and very difficult challenge right now. Used to be we were excited about growth, not so much.
Oh, thank you so much.